Cinema Snacks presents Daredevil Born Again.
And this is officially the first of a small series of just Cinema Snack, because I'm going to do Daredevil Born Again Season 2 episode recaps and my thoughts, because, as brought up many a time in the podcast, I am a massive comic book fan and I especially love Daredevil. So the events of this series are following on from the end of Born Again Season 1, where it is Mayor Fisk, which was a arc in the comics, City at War, done a couple of years ago by Chip Zdarsky, and as much as people think, it seems more like Trump might have followed the idea of this than they were trying to mirror Trump. And we'll touch on that again in a bit. But we don't want to talk politics, we're here to talk nerdy and comics. So it starts with Ben Urich's niece, BB, doing her report from the street. So we're kind of seeing a little time has passed. So we're seeing how the city is now on people's thoughts. And after that we jump straight into Daredevil in his all-black costume, which the look at is heavily inspired by Shadowlands, which was a comic in the 2010s. Good costume, I like it. I like that they seem to have this aesthetic going with it. It's painted, so I think the more the season goes on, the more we're going to see it mark up as it goes on, which I personally love. And they seem to really hone in on his echolocation when he's in the boat. And this whole episode, it's more of an introduction and set up to plans of what the series is going to be. Yeah, so it's the setup of how they plan the series to be. So we know weapons are coming in, and as established in the last series, Fisk has kind of got an island which is under no authority for him to kind of do his illegal things aside from being mayor. But Daredevil is obviously still fighting the good fight for people and is disrupting this shipment. And there was almost a weird synergy to the start of Daredevil Season 3 when it was on Netflix, because he's battling his way through the boat goes down and he faces the inevitable that he's going to be washed out after another brilliant fight scene. The way they choreograph these scenes is great, and I do like the way they use the CGI. It's more, and Charlie Cott said this, it's more for physics defying moments. Like there's just certain angles that Billy Club can't do, but they keep the fighting like it is in the series. It almost has like a Batman Begins feel to it, because it's around the containers, and I'd say Dredd from 2013 where he's just working his way through. But eventually the boat springs a leak, it's ditched, and we see Matt Murdock wash up on the shore after the opening credits. Once again, love the opening credits. Yeah, that's where we now begin, and we see him go back to his base, which is Josie's old bar, and apparently Karen Page is picking up martial arts at this point, which is fine. It's good development for the character, but personally for me, I feel Karen Page in this seems like there's nothing she can't do, which is good but doesn't really help the story along. And yes, apparently Matt and Karen are a thing again in it, which is fine. And I do like, then we cut to Wilson Fisk in his office, and they seem to be really leaning into that white suit, the classic white suit Kingpin. And we see him in his office talking politics, still trying to stay within the law, even though that's not really his thing. The governor comes down to tell him what he can and can't do, but before this we get an introduction to the character we don't know yet, but who's called Mr. Charles. And Mr. Charles is played by Matthew Lillard, who, I don't know if I'm just biased, I just like him as an actor. I just feel he's got a certain craziness to him, but he doesn't have to do it out loud, he just puts you on edge. And in this, he's seen as, I would say, he's very high up the food chain, and I think it's going to be good with him and the Kingpin, because he is an entity and someone we've not really seen the Kingpin come up against. Like, he's more street level, he's a brawler, he is a businessman, he can fight a good fight, but I don't know, I just get a feeling that Mr. Charles is going to pose a very different threat to him, which I'm very keen to look forward to and see. Yeah, we seem to catch up with a lot of characters as well. Like we see the legal firm is going strong in Matt's absence. Cherry's still there, which fills us with joy, and there's still tenuous links to everyone. This is me putting my prediction down now. There seems to be a connection to this. There are people who are helping other people get out of the city, and it's a Greek Cypriot boat, which I think is important, because if we look where Electra is from, I can see this being a back end into the series again by laying the groundwork early. But not just Matt and his small team, there are people genuinely trying to help the city out, and I think the restaurant could play a key part. I think Cherry's going to continue to play a key part in the series as it goes along. We also catch back up with Swordsman in it, who seems to be in the kind of Fisk's unofficial prison, which you could say it's like a camp, but we'll avoid that comparison for now. Dealing with Matt's ex-partner, who's still having visions of Muse, which I find this character, it's a fascinating arc she's had through the seasons. She's got a bit little power crazy, and she's trying to break Swordsman, and he's a wonderful actor. He has a lot of energy. I think he's getting the Swordsman character right, and he's standing his ground. But through this, we kind of see how really corrupt Kingpin has the city now, and you see him kind of kneel slightly to her questions, and that is something that comes back up later the more we delve into her character. Kristen is the character's name, as I just remembered. We then catch up with Matt talking to Cherry, as Cherry's one of the few people who seems to know Matt is still alive. That select group. We're also going back to Mr. Charles, and I'll talk about him quite a bit in it. He kind of shows his hand to Wilson when he goes into the mayor's office, knows all the names and predicts the phone call's going to change it. We then cut to later on where Mr. Charles is with Vanessa and Wilson, what I believe is at their home, and he starts talking business to them, and I get the feeling, and I think Vincent, the actor who plays Wilson, showed this well. There is an unease, and I think he's aware that Mr. Charles is quite a powerful person, as they're speaking about the issue with the boat, and Mr. Charles it comes across that he's not there to mess about. Everything about his business to him. I think Vanessa has an interest in how involved in the business he is, and there seems to be an uneasy alliance between him and the Kingpin at this point, and I really love that about it. I really want Mr. Charles to be in this more and more as it goes on. Then into the kind of final part of this episode, we really see everything kind of coming together and setting up the rest of the plot with a wonderful twist. Because we see BB's report is, by some people, they see her as a puppet of Fisk, but she's trying to get close to his number two, Dan, who's letting down Team Dan, being a Dan myself. Great actor though. And then we're introduced to like a Max Headroom style thing. So Max Headroom was a puppet who took over a TV broadcast, and it's supposed to look a bit odd, and we hear this person in a Wilson Fisk mask saying how the BB report is kind of not a great thing for her to be doing because of who her uncle was, and it's become the Kingpin's mouthpiece. But we see that she's playing a deeper game when she speaks to Karen, saying about trying to get close to these people to get the information. And then we see Matt in the Greek restaurant trying to find out what the AVTF, Anti-Vigilante Task Force, have such interest in this restaurant, and we kind of find out by, like we said earlier, they're helping get people out of the city. We then see a phone call with the doctor who was evaluating Swordsman in the cell, and a phone call from a rather corrupt person Fisk has put in the police force, and you see her lapsing in and actually still traumatised by Muse. But he's basically saying to her it would help if they changed the psych report, because as she says, the swordsman, they have no rights, it's all based off this report, even if it goes to court. So we then see her stare out, think of Muse, zone back in, and then change it just to make everyone's life easier, to show she truly has become a pawn of Kingpin's big plan. And then get to the conclusion, which has a couple of has a twist in the tail I quite like, and I'm still a bit. I'm 99% sure who it is, but I'm still going with my point earlier on. So Cherry knows that they've come to speak to him regarding. Well, I think they're aware of his affiliation with certain people, shall we say. And then as they're about to beat him, Daredevil comes in his black costume. But he can tell Cherry's heart is not doing well, and he can hear it, and he's winning the fight, and then it distracts him. Then the task force peel off his mask, because he's been knocked down and he's not quite with it, and he's distracted by Cherry's obviously having, or possibly having, a heart attack, but also a bit kind of overwhelmed with everything that's going on. And they slowly pull up the mask, and you hear one of them go, "Matt Murdock?" And then you're like, oh no, what's going to happen now? They're going to radio in, and you see a bunch of knives fly through and take everyone out. And on the knife that lands near Cherry, it says "You're welcome," which is implying at this point Bullseye is either aware who Daredevil is, or he is somewhat and unusually helping him out, which, linking into the first season of Born Again, I think would imply he's now aware that he was being set up by the Kingpin, and I think we will loop back to what this has to do with Foggy. As we saw from trailers, Foggy has some part in this, but we don't know if it's a flashback, if it's going to show the deal or what. But it shows where we are in this season. And I think that's kind of where I'm going to wrap up. Like I said, this is very much from the comics. I know a lot of people are going to draw parallels with America at the minute, but as I've said to friends, Mayor Fisk, what happened before Trump's second term, the anti-vigilante task force was kind of in City at War, but also the symbolism and the cops is in a Punisher comic where he says they're not to be like him. If they're trying to be like him, it defeats the point. So, and I feel with the Greek thing that maybe with Bullseye that they're just laying the seeds for possibly Elektra to pop up in this series. Because if we know from the comics, you cannot kill Elektra, she will keep coming back. So I've been Dan, this has been Cinema Snacks. You can find us on Instagram, you can find us on TikTok, I believe. This is normally Job's part. I've left Job and Scott out of this because they both have up and coming events in their lives, which doesn't mean they can drop into this kind of weekly format. So you're stuck with me, so enjoy. I'll see you next time, and please listen to our back catalogue, and hopefully you will either be listening to this on YouTube or we are coming to YouTube very soon. Goodbye.